Hi everyone, welcome to another Core Unit Lunch Pod session. Today we're in session number 15 and we are exploring the StarkNet engineering core unit. So yeah, we're with Louis Baudouin and the team, and they're going to be explaining a bit more what they are working for, and hopefully there'll be some time to answer questions. As always, if you want to jump into the mic, you're more than welcome to join. And yeah, Louis, if you want to take it away.
Super. Thank you, Juan. And just for a bit to set the stage, we prepared a very short presentation that's kind of summarizing the key points of the proposal. We already had a lot of discussions around the proposal that we loved the feedback from the community. And I think the intent here is to just set the stage very quickly and then have more of a Q&A / open discussion about the proposal. So I will start sharing my screen, if that's okay. Let me know when you can see that. Super. So Maker over StarkNet core unit. So for the context, as we mentioned in the proposal, it makes a lot of sense for Maker to have a multi-chain and multi-layer 2 strategy. As Derek explained, the collateral is not going to stay, or all the collateral is not going to stay for ages on L1 because of transaction speed and because of gas costs. And so in that context, there is a push for Maker to pretty much be on different chains, faster chains, scalability solutions, and L2. And just for context, as we mentioned in the proposal, just the VAT of the core module consumed about 6,000 ETH in gas fees that are all passed down to the users so far. So for those who don't know, we've been trying to give context about what Starkware is and what StarkNet is in the proposal. I'll just give again a quick recap. So, and here Ohad is product manager at Starkware. Ohad, feel free to jump in if I'm not representing anything right here. So Starkware in metrics. So today it's about 250 million in TVL, 125 million in funding. Most of it, I believe, is venture funding. Onboarded 2 major protocols, and I think 5 in total, including DYDX and Sora. Note that DYDX is a liquidation-based protocol, and after porting over DYDX onto StarkX, they saw a number of protocol improvement levers that they could pull to ultimately make the protocol more efficient. And Starkware today, it's about 50 employees. So now what is StarkNet? So StarkNet, it's a permissionless zero-knowledge rollup that's operating as an L2 over Ethereum. The users and the companies operating on StarkX today are expected to go over StarkNet. And so if I understand correctly, which at this point I'm pretty sure I do, the vision is to have all the companies building pretty much on StarkNet. So if you had different protocols that had some synergies, say DYDX and Maker, they would be able to interact on StarkNet. And one thing important to note, it's StarkNet is planning on being fully decentralized in 2022. Maybe I'm just going to pause here if there are some questions about Starkware that we could answer now.
No questions. I just want to make a point that Ethermint from Cosmos is EVM compatible, I believe, on your first slide. Second
Okay.
slide.
This is a good point. This is a copy paste from the from the multi-chain strategy, so it's probably outdated at this point. Thank you for pointing it out.
Thanks.
So quick summary of what this project is about. There's been a lot of discussions on the forum about the scope of the project, and I think those comments were totally legit. So we really decided to focus on phase one. And so phase one is just going to be building a bridge between Maker and StarkNet. And so the deliverables are going to be a bridge. So this is going to be a contract on L1 and a contract on StarkNet. It's going to be an upgradability mechanism. So any upgradability is going to be subject to MakerDAO governance. It's going to be a number of code lines that are going to be annotated to assure that it's going to be easy to onboard other developers on this project. And it's also going to be a planning for phase two, which is going to be about minting directly on StarkNet. And so the very first version of the proposal was kind of bundling the bridge and minting all together. And this is why it was probably not precise enough. And so we got the feedback from the community that we would rather have very clear deliverables, which is fair. And I prefer working towards clear deliverables. So now we are just doing phase one. We will have another proposal for phase two that will again be subject to governance vote. So the timeline for this bridge, it's end of 2021. Slight caveat, we're trying to book auditor capacity now for the end of the year. We know it's a very, very rare commodity right now to get auditors. So timeline may change a little bit depending on auditors' availability, but we're doing our best to get them in December. In terms of costs, and here we're open to take any questions, but it's going to be 50-50 between MakerDAO and Starkware. So the MakerDAO piece is $210,000 roughly. And so Starkware will hit the same bill on their side because it's a 50-50 split. There is no incentive for the team, no additional incentive for the team, neither in Maker nor in any type of Starkware equity. And I think we just want to show good faith for phase one. And if we do a good job for phase one, then we can talk about more incentive for phase two, for the team for phase two. But this phase is just going to be straight up salaries and no additional incentive on any side of the equation. And so for the team, the confirmed member, there is myself, the facilitator, there is Maciek Kamiński, who's been working in the Maker ecosystem for the past 3.5 years. We are recruiting another developer who has Solidity experience and strong willingness to learn Cairo. And we will also recruit a part-time data scientist. The goal being just to prepare for the phase two proposal. And you may know that there is also a data core unit proposal that's out there. And if they were to pass, we would probably collaborate with them mostly to run analysis or make analysis available easily to any team that wants to have information about gas fee per function of each contract, and also about liquidation. Because if we think about making the protocol more efficient, a lot of it is about liquidation. So we think it'd be super useful for any team to have some visualization and some data readily available. Any questions on this before we move to the risk mitigation part?
Louis, I was wondering, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, here you go.
Well,
On
go for it.
He's shaking his head. He's making me go. So kind of in the phase one, then, in terms of the bridge, I was wondering if you could kind of give some context to what that kind of provides the maker community. Like right now, is there DAI over on StarkNet? How are bridges occurring, and what, I guess, how big of a deal is this bridge for the community?
So it's going to be one contract on L1. And then we're going to have one contract on StarkNet. And we're going to have the app that's pretty much like sending some messages, but pretty much at the core of it, it's two contracts. It's two contracts that are going to be tested, that are going to be audited. And then it's going to be a governance mechanism to upgrade those two contracts. So at some stage, we will say that those contracts cannot be upgraded anymore unless there is a governance vote approving it. The other thing that's important to mention, but this is next page, but we have a DAI limit to the bridge. So we're proposing for 1,000 DAI as the limit. So 1,000 is the max liability in case something bad happens. And if we wanted to increase the amount of this bridge, this would need to go through a governance vote as well.
Out of curiosity, sorry, go for it, one.
No, go, David, sorry.
All right, yeah. So I don't know much about StarkNet. What is the difference between StarkNet and other layer 2s, specifically like Arbitrum and Optimism?
Shall I take this?
Yeah, go for it, Ohad.
So the main difference is that StarkNet is a validity proof based, meaning that everything we do on the layer 2 is proven and then verified through smart contracts on-chain, whether Arbitrum and Optimism are optimistic rollups. So their security mechanism relies on listeners that listens to the state that is frozen for 7 days after the submission and submitting fraud proof if something went wrong. And this may sound like a negligible difference, but actually for DeFi protocols, it makes all the difference in the world, because if you need to wait, say 4 or 5 hours until a proof is generated and accepted on-chain versus wait a week for a transaction to be really finalized from the perspective of L1, this gives a tremendous difference in terms of like capital efficiency when you try to have interoperability with other platforms, even have like a reliable price feed is something that Optimism, it's really expensive to them because they have to publish all the signatures again on L1 in order to prove that all the price feeds are correct. Whether in StarkNet, you could say potentially, okay, I work out some magic with the Oracle team, and now I have prices every second on StarkNet, which are much more real time. And I don't need to submit to L1 all the quorums and all the signatures because everything is proven to be just plain correct. So this is why we hope that using validity proof-based layer 2 would be able to make a large difference in the Maker protocol long term. Does it make sense?
I'm gonna have to watch back the recording and listen to it in slow motion, but for generally speaking, like it sounds like it's just a technically more efficient solution for a few different reasons, and yeah, I kind of get that. Cool.
Yeah, I can provide my outsider explanation. Pretty much, mathematically, it's proving that the transactions on L2 are right, while other solutions are relying on someone saying that they're wrong. It just brings a lot of capital efficiency. I've been going through the projects of pretty much allowing fast withdrawals on optimistic rollups. Totally doable. It's quite an endeavor. We don't necessarily need it in that case, so it kind of simplifies the design. And I think that's not benefits for phase 1, but when we think about phase 2, potentially phase 3, just the ability to have an oracle that's going much faster will just give us the opportunity as a community to like experiment on ways we could improve the protocol, on make it more efficient, on make it more attractive to new types of users. On my side, being more of an outsider from Starkware, this is why I'm excited for Maker for this.
Like even for phase 1, we will have fast withdrawals from the bridge with much higher capital efficiency compared to the same feature at Optimism.
Regarding
yeah,
phase 1,
that's a lot clearer. Thank you so much.
Regarding phase 1, is there any possibility that the results give you the idea that this should not continue? Like, is that under consideration, that you reach a stage where you say, okay, this is not worth pursuing, so we're going to stop everything?
I think there would need to be some level of force majeure for this to happen, and I'm just taking the I've been going through the DYDX, I would call it success of DYDX going over StarkX, and I think that's kind of the North Star for us as Maker here. It's like that's probably where we want to be, and like explore ways to improve the protocol. So I think there would need to have a kind of a force majeure case or some big delay in phase 1 for us to stop there. That's my assessment based on the data I have.
Like from the Starkware perspective, we aim that in like 3 months, StarkNet would be on mainnet with like few first pop-ups of projects. The DAI bridge is one of them, and that in 6 to 9 months, it would be like a rich ecosystem with the StarkX's instances deployed, etc. And we see the Maker protocol as a great protocol to have there in 6 to 9 months. And we know that in order to get this rolling, we need to start now. So from our perspective, as long as the DAO is happy with it, we are happy with it.
And you guys mentioned that there will be like more, I don't know what to call it, negotiations, but there will be like the need to reevaluate the resources after the phase 1.
Yes, pretty much. I think there is part of the phase 1 that's going to be about planning for phase 2. For phase 1, we prefer just a very tight, very competent team. And phase 2 will probably be a bit meatier, a bit thicker in terms of work, and we may need a few additional resources. And I'm saying this not having done the precise planning of phase 2, so just being slightly conservative here.
Yeah, it's for me, it's a bit, maybe scary is not the right word, but that you're saying, hey, we're going to need more resources. We don't know how much. So potentially this whole thing could not work if there's no more available resources.
Yeah, I don't expect a times 10 between versus what we have. I just expect potentially a couple of additional developers on the team. But that's pretty much it. Which, by the way, if we really wanted, if we really wanted to have Maker moving over StarkNet, we would anyway. My recommendation as the facilitator of this project would anyway to have some people in the ecosystem learn Cairo, just to assure we don't have too much of a concentrated key knowledge with very few people.
If you guys don't mind, I can provide a little bit of color as well, how the protocol engineering team sort of looks at this proposal, because in my opinion, this does fit really well into the multi-chain strategy that was published a while ago. And while obviously it's a little bit easier for us right now to build on optimistic rollups because they're ready, we always have this conviction that the ZK rollups, they'll eventually be ready as well, and they provide somewhat stronger security guarantees, right? And as Maker in my opinion, should scale out to all the rollups, because it's very likely that the future is multi-chain. We just need to make sure that we put our resources right now to make sure that when that does happen, we can move in quickly, right? And building our own bridge rather than using the generalized bridge, it makes sense only when we consider in the future minting DAI directly on L2. And I think we would only do it for rollups that we consider to be super secure. So right now, I think nothing is more secure than ZK rollups. And obviously Starkware, if you look at the L2Beat and the TVL and all the solutions that are already running on ZK rollups from Starkware, you'll see that this is clearly the major player, and we need to invest, in my opinion, in learning Cairo and give ourselves a shot of making sure that Maker and DAI will be available on Starkware when Starkware will eventually launch StarkNet.
And Bartek, just to make sure I understand, this is it's going to be rolled out as a Validium, right? Not as a CK rollup, or the other way around?
That's a very good question, and
so
question.
We will start with a ZK rollup, and we potentially can move to Validium if the DAO chooses to.
And so the reason why I asked is because I was reading on Immutable X, because there's a lot of excitement with NFT, and Immutable X is going to be this layer 2 where you can trade NFTs, what have you, if I understood it correctly. So I was reading that they're going with a Validium mode, and they need what's called a data availability committee, or a DAC, and theirs is made up of like some big heavy hitters, like obviously one of them is Starkware, the other one is Diversify, Infura, everybody knows Infura, and Occlusion, which is actually from the Cosmos team. So I was just wondering, like, if that is the case, like, how are the members going to be chosen to decentralize it enough, right? Like you just mentioned that Cairo should be learned by everyone in the product engineering core unit. So maybe I'm just thinking too far ahead. And is that the same thing for ZK rollup?
So no, like you are correct. You're correctly describing how things working currently in Immutable X. But this is like not our only mode of data availability we support. DYDX, for example, chose to have on-chain data. So the state difference, like the entire state difference, is published as call data with any state update. And users can like index this data from any archive node and reconstruct the entire state, which is like the costlier, but also the more trustless approach. With StarkNet, we will for sure from day one support this costlier and more trustless approach of like just report to L1 all the state differences. And of course, it's much more costlier than what Immutable X are doing. So in case you'd like to move out to such kind of committee, we'll have proposals and discussion around the members, etc. But this is very far ahead.
So if I understand it correctly, like DYDX, only the only thing that goes on chain is the deltas, right? The changes in the account balances, and not my order to buy, 10 ETH.
Yeah, exactly. Not the orders, just the necessary data to reconstruct the Merkle trees to test what is the balance of every user.
Cool, got it. Thanks, man.
I don't know if this is more of a question for the PE side or the StarkNet side, but I was wondering if like the PSMs were something that you considered kind of testing the integration with, and if that makes sense for that side or not.
I think it's a question to broader community than just PE, but I think anything's possible in the future. I mean, given that the vision is to have a generalized computation platform and composable blocks, we can definitely consider building whatever will be necessary, and PSM is definitely one of the options. but I think, you know, this is definitely something that would be quite hard right now to even plan. We need to make sure that there will be a lot of TVL locked inside such a rollup, and then monitor the die price and whatnot, and see whether that's actually needed or not, right? And that would probably apply to anything that we will do eventually, because just imagine a scenario where a lot of collateral actually flows out of L1 and goes into L2 for all sorts of reasons, right? Capital efficiency and whatnot. The collateral will be stuck in the bridge and it will be available on L2. So eventually we'll have to mint DAI on L2. And at that time, possibly things like PSM or other things will be needed.
Makes sense. Thanks.
I don't know if this question is more for Bartek or for the StarkNet people, but I was wondering if it's normal or if it's an industry standard to subsidize this type of projects. Like, for example, did DYDX pay for this as well, or is it something unique to Maker because of the core unit setup?
Shall I take this? So DYDX paid for it in the sense that there was a collaboration of engineering effort, because like StarkX is a very closed product with a specific API, and DYDX had to put a lot of resources and a lot of engineering in order to make the off-chain matching order exchange into something that is compatible with the StarkX API. So in this regard, we had like those two development teams at Starkware and at DYDX working together, and each company funded its own engineerings. So here we view the collaborated effort as co-funding this external team, right? Because we don't want the people that are doing it to be fully internal, like workers of Starkware.
Nice.
Yeah, and if I can add to this, I think we. So I dug a bit into this to just assure that things are fair. And my understanding is that when Maker has had similar projects with other L2s, the work was distributed on both sides, but there never was such a sharp budget discussion as we have here, because here we're talking about having a core unit working on this. So my understanding is that this is a fair situation compared to what but we're having the discussion because indeed there is an actual budget discussion with precise number to be had.
Nice, thanks for that. Are there any other questions for the team?
I have a general interest question. With regards to making a bridge, in this case between a DAI bridge between Ethereum and StarkNet, what is the core competency of making such a bridge? I mean, why you and not anyone else?
So, I mean, in that case, it's going to require Solidity work, and it's going to require Cairo work. So we're going to have a contract on each side. And then to set up the governance, I think it's going to require some experience of the Maker DAO. So the team we're putting together, we're assuring that we have some engineers who either have built extensively in Solidity and that have knowledge of the different core units and the different components of the Maker protocol, and or engineers who have already coded in Cairo and who are willing to just ramp up and spend time to code in Cairo.
So I can add some extra color to this. just looking at our experience of Optimism and Arbitrum, we've built Optimism Bridge, and we're finishing Arbitrum Bridge. And to build this, you need a very in-depth knowledge of Optimism or Cairo, and obviously EVM, and make a protocol and how it works and how the governance works. So all things combined allows you to build a bridge that's safe for users, right? And more importantly, just gives you the option to do something much more complex in the future, which is literally to try to mint DAI directly on L2. If you were to do the same exercise for Starkware, you would have to learn Cairo inside the protocol engineering unit, which is obviously possible, but that would pull out too many resources on our side, right? And this is one way of thinking about how you should scale out. I mean, the Cairo is definitely a steep learning curve, and it just requires some dedication because it's a bleeding edge tech and you have to commit full time.
Yeah, that is why I'm asking, because this is more of a general question about Maker's L2 strategy and building or multi-chain strategy. So when we build a bridge, in this case to StarkNet, we will need competency on both sides. That is in this case, the Cairo for the StarkNet side and Solidity for Ethereum. And we will have to repeat this process for every bridge we build. So we can't really use this team to build multiple bridges, because they would need to to learn the relevant protocol on each side.
Yeah, I guess in principle you're right, but this team, when the bridge is built, they can move on and they can try to deploy the full Maker protocol on Cairo. And by deploying, I mean something much more complex than doing it on EVM compliant chain like Optimism, because it's literally deploying and then changing maybe some of the interfaces. Here, we're very likely talking about the re-implementation. It is as if you were to re-implement Maker on something like Solana, completely different environment with different tooling. Everything's different, but the functionality more or less could be the same, right?
Yeah, all right.
The L1 side will be very, very similar. And that's why, we kind of want to somehow supervise such teams and make sure that, we provide guidance from the protocol engineering and provide some sort of a final, I don't know, however you want to call it, an audit maybe, or some other process that will make sure that we're happy. And this is no different, but much more complex than collateral onboarding, potentially done by a separate team than protocol engineering.
All right, thank you.
Nice.
Thank you for those questions there.
Yeah, should we go to the next slide then?
So for the risk mitigation, as mentioned, for the phase one, so we're gonna have a 50-50 cost split between Maker and Starkware. We have a limit for the bridge that's defined by the governance. We're proposing a limit of 1,000 DAI to start with. So if anything was to go wrong, 1,000 DAI would be the max liability. Not mentioned here, but Starkware also proposed to pretty much insure this amount. So if it was lost, Starkware would pretty much insure what is lost. In the phase one, we will also, as I said, run extensive tests first and then actual audits. And so for the phase two and beyond, phase two would start with minting. So the Starkware team and myself filled in the L2 onboarding risk framework that was put forward, I believe, by the protocol engineering team, just to assure that we are pretty much thinking about risk the same way that the protocol engineering team recommends. After the insurance phase, so I would say during phase 2, the bridge will be fully self-custodial on the StarkNet side. So that's how we're thinking about risk mitigation. I could go deeper on each of those points, but I'd love to instead answer questions.
Yeah, I guess for me, it would be on the fee structure. Is Maker and StarkNet going to front the withdrawals, right? Because I've heard that DYDX, some of the folks there are fronting. What I mean by that, I mean, I think you know what I mean. Like they're putting up in order to make it a faster withdrawal, right? I believe in DYDX, it was something like 7 hours, 8 hours. So they cut it down to under 1 hour. I could be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong there. But someone or a company is fronting the money to provide the faster withdrawal, right? And so I just kind of want to get how the fee is going to work there. Is Maker expected to put up some of that money, front that money? And is that the reason why we're going to start off with 1,000 DAI? Is that part of the reason? Sorry, rephrase my question.
Ohad, do you want to comment on the DYDX
Yeah,
situation?
sure. I mean, the threshold of the 1,000 is not because of the liquidity needed for fast withdrawals. It just as a symbolic cap that would allow us to develop a working bridge and test stuff on mainnet with small amounts. And later we have this combined approach of insurance phase until we implement the self-custodian part of the bridge, meaning that removing from Starkware the theoretical ability to send our users from withdrawing from L2. I think that what you ask about providing liquidity for fast withdrawals, currently the YDX are doing it not as a liability, but because they earn money of it as a percentage. It was their choice. Of course, if the DAO wants to do it as well, they are very welcome to. If not, we can reach out to external liquidity providers, and they would probably do it with very minor fee, if at all. Does this answer your questions? Because I think you asked several questions combined. So
yeah, sorry, I apologize. So I guess what you're saying is to be determined what the fee structure will be, right?
Yeah, I mean, the fee, you mean the fee for withdrawing fast and not through StarkNet, through an external liquidity provider?
From both ends of the spectrum, right? So I guess you're saying that Maker governors, MKR token holders could eventually vote in a fast withdrawal and earn some fees. So that's cool. But yeah, the fees within StarkNet, I don't think you have a structure yet, right? But if you do, that'd be cool if you could share it.
Yeah, I mean, the fees in StarkNet is something that we didn't implement yet. The first version of StarkNet that's supposed to hit mainnet on later this year probably wouldn't be implementing fees yet. And in this situation, Starkware would subsidize all the transactions, like Optimism ran, for example, for a while, doing the same thing. Looking far ahead, of course, Starkware subsidizing 100% of the network wouldn't last forever, but I do think that if we don't hit times 10, times 20, 30 reduced cost compared to mainnet, considering all the components, right? So submitting transactions to L1 and proving and revenue for the network operators, it wouldn't be Starkware potentially at this point because we aim to decentralize the network. Then there is no point to it. So we will be sure to be well under this line.
Understood.
think it's also, if I can just comment here, it's worth noticing that the fast withdrawal scheme for optimistic rollups is very, very different than fast withdrawal for ZK rollups. For optimistic rollups, the withdrawal window is 7 days. It's like huge nuisance to the users, and we can do it. Like we can mediate the withdrawal essentially using our Oracle network, like we described in one of the forum posts for fast withdrawals, right? We can mint DAI and just give it to user and then claim that DAI back in 7 days with literally zero risk. With ZK rollup, the problem is slightly different because the withdrawals are actually fast, but if users want to have it like immediate, right? We can use what's called a conditional withdrawal. And I think the scheme is slightly different, and we might consider as a maker to facilitate that as well, but that would reduce the withdrawal time from, I don't know, 10 minutes to immediate, more or less, right? But we're not talking like 7 days here.
Currently, withdrawal times are around 4 or 5 hours on average, because you still need to wait until enough transactions come to L2, so it's beneficial to punch them.
Yeah, so it's few hours, right? But it's clearly a different problem. I'm getting from 7 days to something which is almost instantaneous versus few hours to something that is instantaneous. That's a different problem for the end user, I think.
And the gas optimization, right? I heard for DYDX is pretty high. Has that come down at all? And do you kind of have numbers of what it is, DYDX compared to Diversify, if possible? If not, that's cool.
I can share with you some numbers. Like, I'm not sure we are really comparing apples to apples here, because DYDX both have much more complex business logic, and they're working with the more expensive data availability mode. But roughly saying, if I look on layer 2 transactions, of course, deposits and withdrawals are much more expensive, right? Because they involve L1 operations. But a pure L2 transaction on DYDX is around 1,000 gas, and a pure L2 transaction on Diversify is around 500, 600 gas. And yeah, those are the numbers.
Yeah, I was thinking more like going from layer 1 to StarkNet, but I guess my wishful thinking is that one day Kraken, Coinbase, Binance, etc., are going to allow you to go directly, all the way from your centralized account to your StarkNet account. So it's all good. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we also work with interoperability solutions such as Hop or Mover to have, as you said, cheap deposit and withdraw from the system without the need to go through L1. So this is on our roadmap as well.
Are there any
Net,
other questions?
if the magnitude,
Yeah, hey
just one
guys.
comment, Juan. If the
Hey,
yeah,
I'll
go
just
for it.
I lost my knowledge about self-custodial bridges. Could you elaborate on that, if you mind? What do you mean by actually having the bridge self-custodial?
It means you're not gonna rely on any other parties to exist or to do anything to be able to withdraw your funds.
Right,
So,
and how that'll be achieved? Is that usually the general thing that's happening now with the bridges? Or
so I guess that each bridge has its own trust assumptions. And basically, it means that you have a way to enforce your withdrawal transaction from L1, right? Because the risk is that you submit a transaction on the layer 2 and the operator/operators censor you. So self-custodian means that you can submit a L1 transaction directly to the bridge on L1 and say, look, I really want to withdraw my money. And then either your request is someone take care of it in the next 2 to 3 days, or you get the right to come again to the bridge and tell to him, look, someone sends over my withdrawal request for 3 days. something is clearly wrong, and then we turn to like an escape hatch or a mass exit mode. Optimism has a similar mechanism in the sense that you can turn to their smart contract and include any transaction you want, and it would get included eventually after some time, or again, something really bad happens. With bridges to sidechains like Polygon, I don't think they bother to implement it because they use different trust assumptions, but I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I was going to comment that it was nice to see the endorsement from the protocol engineering team. I think that signals at least that it's been reviewed by people we trust. So yeah, I don't know if I don't know, Frank, if you had any questions regarding the agreements that you were asking in the forum, or that's been cleared.
I think so. I think we are waiting, right, to so I mean, I guess I'll do a shameless request. So I was thinking more like along the lines of, would it be possible, and this is just me speaking, I'm not speaking on behalf of the entire community, right? They could be totally against this. If we can maybe in the future have some way of being given back to the Maker Treasury Starkware, you know, tokens if they ever come into fruition, right? Arbitrum is obviously saying they're not going to do anything anytime soon because they're well funded. But that was just me thinking out loud and posting out loud, I guess. I'm not sure if you guys can answer that.
I'm not sure Ohad can answer this. I for sure cannot answer this because I'm not representing Starkware. But yeah, happy to surface the question at Starkware here.
Yeah, I mean, I also I can't comment on like tokens and stuff like this. Yeah, I myself don't know what our plans are. Though.
Yeah, that's understandable. But yeah, I mean, it'd be good if you guys post on the Maker forum some kind of agreement, and also I think I requested if we could. And the only reason I got inspired by this is because I saw with the real world assets, Gov Alpha requesting that agreements be shared with the community. So if there are any agreements with PE, that would be appreciated. But again, I could be completely off, and the community could care less. But I doubt it. They do. But yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
Frank, I might have gotten your comment wrong then. I thought you were talking about like work agreement of the team members. Did I get that wrong? Are you talking about another type of agreement?
Yeah, I think maybe I misunderstood. I thought there was going to be an agreement with the PE core unit, or I could be completely off. So if you want to clarify that, that'd be great. And posting it on the forum too would work more than anything.
Yeah.
Hey Frank, I haven't seen your comment, but I mean, in terms of like a formal agreement, there is no formal. I mean, we have a helpful relationship together that, I've been chatting to Ohad and Louis for some time, and introducing them to the Maker, the culture, the ecosystem, how we work, how a DAO works, how it's different from traditional company representation, and so on. So very much kind of like what Bartek was talking about earlier around the multi-chain strategy. There's no formal document, but it's a working relationship, and making sure that the StarkNet team are aware of the approach we're trying to take in terms of decentralization and multi-chain DAI usage availability. I think I was actually going to comment on, I think it was one of the previous slides where you had the sharing of documentation and My point was to the handover, the annotated code point, and the intellectual property that exists there would, naturally as a team paid by the DAO belong to, I presume, the DAI Foundation, and much in the same way that the protocol engineering team, all our code, has the relevant headers in it for the DAI Foundation. So that would, I presume, be the same case here, and we're happy to work with you guys on making sure that that's visible not to us but to the community. And so to get back to your original question, Frank, we don't have like a written formal agreement, but anything to help us work closely with the team, like more than happy to get involved, understand, learn more about the ZK rollup space. So yeah, hopefully that gives some more color, and I'll check out the forum if there's a post that I missed.
Oh yeah, it does. So I guess what you're saying is that the Starkware folks are gonna help hand over any annotated code, and I guess learning Cairo is something that protocol engineering is just gonna have to take up on their own, or is like Starkware going to kind of have a hand in that? I mean, I don't code, so I have no idea how they're going to pick up Cairo, or if that's something that Bartek and his team is going to pick up. So yeah, I was under the impression maybe there was an agreement that has to be done, but you clarified it. So thank you for that, Derek.
Yeah, Frank, that's part of the deliverables. It's a clear handover, again, to be discussed with the community. My recommendation would be, if phase 2, assure that the team is, we will need a bigger team, but assure that the team is bigger, just to assure that more knowledge is transferred. All the code will be open source. And so in terms of IP, everything will be open sourced at the end of the project.
Got it. Thank you.
Nice. Any other questions from the group? I guess my last question, Louis, would be if you, if the team considered I think it's maybe 55 or 6, maybe pros can help me on this one, the special purpose fund to do like a more like a feasibility study, and then take it to the whole core unit once that we're sure that the risks and the full scope of the project is understood.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so, okay, thanks, pros. So there's MIP 55, which allows for it's called special purpose fund. So basically it allows to draw DAI from the surplus buffer in order to get something done, right? So in this case, if there was some risk analysis or feasibility study that needed to be done, this would be a potential route. And I was just wondering if it was something that you considered or not at all, you want to take the core unit path?
We briefly discussed, I think for the reasons that we mentioned and that Bartek mentioned, we think the core unit path is the best path to take, and that's why we've been just keeping going that way. I don't know at this stage if a feasibility study would really help. I think the question is more at the level of yes, do we invest in StarkNet? Do we invest in Cairo or not? And I'm not sure what additional information or data point the feasibility study would give us.
Nice, makes sense. Okay, so I feel that we're running out of questions or comments from the group. Anything that the team would like to say before parting ways?
No, thanks a lot for all the comments on the forum. I think they were all very, very valid, and we really appreciated, I would say, how fast and how detailed they were. And we're available on the forum to answer any questions.
And Louis, for those watching, where can they find you? What's the best way to send you any type of questions or comments that they might have?
So I am Louis Merkel on the forum, and I'm also Louis Merkel on Rocket Chat. So I'm just putting my handle there. Louis like Louis Vuitton, and Merkel like Merkel tree. That's what I need to say for people to get my name. I know that's that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so Louis
like
Merkel, I'm both on Rocket Chat and the forum.
I like the plug for the uncle family business.
I wish it was an uncle, but it's not. But yeah.
Right. For anyone else, we keep the discussions at forum.makedata.com. And yeah, thank you, Louis and Ahad, for joining us. And well, the rest, as always, really good comments and questions. Yeah, I'll see you around. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Nice one.
Tim.